Vanakkam. Hello friends. In this episode, let's embark on a journey to Kumarikandam or Lemuria, the lost continent in the Indian Ocean beneath Cape Comorin, which kindled the imagination of the Tamil people into believing that it was the cradle of Tamil civilization. Lemuria, the term, was coined by the British zoologist Philip Sclater in the year 1865. Now, he was researching a family of primates, of which the monkey lemur was one, and found its traces to the Nilgiri hills of South India and to Madagascar. And much to his surprise, he didn't see its presence either in Africa or anywhere else in the Middle East. That led him to conclude that there must have been a kind of a land connection between India and Madagascar. And this connection he named as Lemuria after the monkey lemur. He was not entirely wrong in that Alfred Wegener, the famous German geologist who came way after in the year 1912, he published a series of papers that proposed the continental drift theory, basically meaning that way back about 175 million years ago, the continents of the world were fused into a single landmass that he named Pangaea, and about 140 million years ago, a part of it broke away, naming the area as Gondwana. This mini supercontinent contained in it Africa, India, Australia and South America. So Sclater was right in that India and obviously Madagascar were part of a landmass, Gondwana, and not an independent land connect. In the meantime, in Germany, a biologist by the name Ernest Haeckel had published a work in the year 1884 known as A History of Creation, where he rejected Darwin's concept of the human race having originated from out of Africa and proposed a theory that they actually came out of Asia. And his doctrine of evolution was based on linguistics, and he claimed that at one point of time several languages were born amidst the human race, and based on the influence that the language had on the people, several races developed and moved to different parts of the earth. Now, where did all this happen? In Lemuria. And he proposed 10 different races based on the language families, one of which he named as Dravidian. The British rule brought with it a lot of scientific disciplines into India, such as archaeology, meteorology, oceanography, geology, cartography, which is the art of making maps, and census, that is population studies. And in the year 1873, Henry Francis Blandford, a meteorologist who was working for the Geological Survey of India, published in the physical geography textbooks for schools the concept of a lost landmass beneath the Indian Ocean that went down due to volcanic action from the Cretaceous period, meaning that it was about 100 million years ago. And he arrived on this conclusion by studying the rock formations around the Tiruchirappalli area, which belong to the Cretaceous period. Now, in 1885, Charles D. Maclean, a British officer with the Indian Civil Services, in an administrative journal that he published, the Manual of the Administration of Madras Presidency, actually included that the people of the Tamil country were of the Proto-Dravidian origin, and that they had come out of Lemuria and settled in the southern parts of India, and also suggested that the progenitors of all the other races had come out of Lemuria and gone to the other parts of the world through South India, that is the Tamil region. And this he footnoted to Ernest Haeckel and his Asia hypothesis. Now, this was the time when the Britishers were undertaking a thorough census exercise and trying to establish the race and classification of the people of the subcontinent. So, this report was picked up by two officers, again of civil services, Thurston and Risley, who cursorily examined and discussed Maclean's reports and included it in their census publications for 1891 and 1901. So now Lemuria and the fact that Tamil people were Proto-Dravidians found a place in a British Gazette. Now, the next final seal of authority or approval for the Lemuria theory came from the Theosophical Society, who were the first proponents of the Lemuria theory. Now, when we think of Theosophical Society, we think of Annie Besant, the international headquarters at Adayar with its very famous banyan tree. And we all know that Annie Besant was a British socialist who was a part of the Indian independence movement. She launched the Home Rule movement in 1914 along with the First World War and joined the Indian National Congress and eventually became its president in the year 1917. What was Theosophical Society? Theosophy is a religion that was founded by one Helena Blavatsky, a Russian immigrant in the US in the year 1875, based on Western esotericism and occult sciences, meaning that they had to do with supernatural phenomena perceivable beyond the five senses. And Blavatsky herself claimed to be a clairvoyant, meaning that she had psychic powers. She was a sort of a spirit medium, and she claimed that there were these invisible gurus all over the world, and they were headquartered in Tibet, and these masters were reaching out to her and giving her the philosophies that went into the foundation of the Theosophical movement. How? Again by clairvoyance. And in 1890, Annie Besant met Blavatsky and was attracted by the doctrine of Theosophy and got herself included in the movement. And it is theosophical work that actually brought Annie Besant to India, where of course she founded its headquarters in Adayar and became its president in 1907. Blavatsky in the year 1888 had published a work called A Secret Doctrine, where she developed something called a root race theory, where she talked about 7 races of people who all originated from the mythical continents of Lemuria and Atlantis. Now, Annie Besant, together with one William Scott Elliott, another member of the Theosophical Society, worked on this and came up with a theory that one of the root races was the Dravidian race, and they had come out of Lemuria and populated South India when 34 million years ago during the Jurassic period, and if we were to believe them, our ancestors would have been dancing around with dinosaurs. And where did they get all their information from? From one Charles Leadbeater. And where did he get his information from? As he famously declared, through astral clairvoyance, meaning that he got it out of air. Now, occultism as a matter of personal choice is something else. I have read some interesting books like The Riddle of Life by Annie Besant and The Egyptian Stories by Leadbeater. But history is beyond all this and is a science of reality. But maybe because Annie Besant was a very popular figure in the Indian independence movement, people took her approval as a kind of a final authority and didn't probably check the background of it. The theory of Lemuria had come to stay. And as early as in 1898, J.M. Nalusamy Pillai, a leading lawyer and scholar, in a philosophical journal that he was editing at that time, the Siddhanta Deepika, included an article on Lemuria and connected it with the lost Tamil Changams, about which we saw in the previous episode, Irayanar Ahapporudurai and the Idai and Mudal Sangams. He made the connect and published it, and being the astute lawyer that he was, made a footnote saying that these theories did not have any historical correlation or scientific evidence. But people, even scholars at that, see what they want to see. And in 1908, the Lemuria theory found its way into the syllabus of the Madras University. How? Viko Suryanarayana Sastri, whom we also know as Paradimar Kalaignar, a great Tamil scholar, published a work, Tamil Moliyin Varalaru, in the year 1903, where he included the Lemuria hypothesis as connected to the Tamil Changams and rechristened Lemuria as Kumarikandam. So now, given a Tamil name, the theory took on a more authentic note, and by the year 1930, Lemuria or Kumarikandam had taken on the proportions of Kumarikandam, and all the leading Tamil scholars of that time like Maraimalai Adigal, Devanaya Pavanar, Thiruvika, M.S. Poonalingam Pillai, Abraham Pandidar, all great stalwarts were soon claiming Kumarikandam as theirs and propagating all these theories. And as we saw, these Irayanar Ahapporudurai also gave a long list of Sangam classics, and now Tamil revivalists were working on this and adding a lot of works, and soon there were Tamil works covering a gamut of subjects from art and architecture, music, philosophy, yoga, martial arts and medicine, and all these were lost at Kabadapuram and Tenmadurai, taken by the seas. And in the year 1902, a scholar by the name Chidambaranar actually came up with a work known as the Sengon Araicchalavu, that he claimed was from the first Sangam that was held at Tenmadurai. And where did he find it? In some old Kajjan leaves. And this work talked about the exploits of a king named Sengon, who ruled a territory known as the Peruvalanadu between the Paharuli and Kumari rivers. And the author of this particular work was one Mudal Voli Sendan Taniyur. Now, in the year 1950, the eminent Tamil scholar S. Vayaburi Pillai was able to establish that this was a work of forgery. Tamil revivalists, nevertheless, at that time made another connect with Kachiyappa Sivacharya's Kandapuranam, which was composed in the 15th century. Here, the author in the Andagosa Padalam talks about Bharata, the great ruler who ruled over many worlds and who had 8 sons and 1 daughter, and to this daughter he bequeathed the southern part of India known as Kumarikandam. So here there was proof that the name itself already existed in the Puranas. There is a work in Sri Lanka known as Rajavalli that talks about the exploits of one Tisaraja, that claims that he ruled over a large territory called Kalyani, and around 470 fishing villages and 400 pearl fishing villages were lost to the seas. So this was another correlation, and it so happened that Nasi Kandaya, another scholar of repute, included in Tamil textbooks that Kanyakumari was named after the people who left Kumarikandam and resettled here after the deluge. Now, while this all was going on, was Tamil being revived? Let us see this in the next episode. Vanakkam.